In this little video, I'm just going to go over the assignment for Essay 1 that's due on Thursday. It's an essay about the short story Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been by Joyce Carol Oates. This is an academic essay, so you want to make sure that you write it in the third person. That means that you're going to use the he, she, it, or they form. You're not going to use I or you in this essay. It should have an introduction and a body and a conclusion, as we talked about in class the other day, and this essay should be about 500 to 700 words long. Your essay should make a claim about the story. It should have a thesis statement, and that thesis statement, as we talked about the other day, belongs right at the end of your introduction. And you want to prove that thesis, that claim, by providing supporting details and examples, proving your idea thoroughly and specifically, using quotes from the story to make your case or prove your point. And you'll document those quotes MLA style. So you'll provide an in-text citation, and that is, in this case, going to be just the author's last name, because I provided you with a PDF, but that PDF didn't have page numbers. It was from an electronic source. So we'll just have the author's last name, which is Oates, and then a works cited entry on a works cited page for the paper. Now, some of you have asked, what should I write about for this paper? And I have just a few suggestions, and we've talked about this a little bit when we were discussing the story in class. You could talk about the different ways that the character Arnold Friend could be interpreted. You could discuss some different interpretations of the story's ending. You could talk about the importance of setting in the story. You could discuss some of the symbols in the story. Or you could discuss the role of music in the story. So let's say that what you decided to do is discuss the way that Arnold Friend could be interpreted. You might start with a little outline, and for that outline you just begin with your introduction. So remember, we said maybe you'd have an intro, and we talked about this intro might be just 75 words. And then we have the body. And here we might decide what are a couple of ways that we could interpret Arnold Friend. Well, we might be able to say that Arnold Friend could be interpreted as the devil. And we might have another body paragraph that says Arnold Friend could be the Pied Piper of Tucson. And that's Charles Schmidt. And then we would have a conclusion. So here's just a very rough outline of how this paper would work. I'd write a couple of paragraphs, as I talked to you before, aiming for a couple of hundred words per paragraph. Again, here a couple hundred words, and then a shorter conclusion. Now what I would want to do is I would want to go back and look through the text of the story for examples from the text that I could use to make the case that Arnold could be the devil. And we talked a little bit about this in class the other day. I might, for example, choose some of the ways that he behaved or acted, that he had supernatural knowledge, that he could sort of see into the future, that he was menacing, that he tried to make a bargain with Connie. I could also talk about his appearance. So I could do that in this first paragraph. And then in the second paragraph, I might talk about how Arnold Friend resembled Charles Schmidt, the Pied Piper of Tucson, whom we know inspired the story for Joyce Carol Oates. So again, I'd go back and look in the story for similarities between these two people. And then after I'd written my body, I'd go back and write an introduction with my last sentence being my thesis statement. And, you know, I could have a thesis statement that would say something along the lines of Arnold Friend could be interpreted as the devil or as the Pied Piper of Tucson. And again, that's my thesis statement that's right here. And in my conclusion, I'm going to restate that thesis statement. And I can do that either using the exact same words. Oh, made a mistake here. I thought that I copied it. And then in the conclusion, I can restate this thesis statement using either the exact same words or using some similar words. So that's a rough outline of how I would approach this essay, looking at one of these ideas. And of course, you can use any idea that you have. You could talk about what kind of a character Arnold is. You could talk about the characters Arnold and Connie. You could talk about how to interpret the story's ending, as we did in class the other day as well. You could talk about what the main message or theme of the story is. And tomorrow in class, I'd like you to bring your draft with you, and we'll do some actual, bring it on a, either email it to yourself or bring it with you on a flash drive. And we're going to be in a computer lab tomorrow, and we can actually do some peer editing and some editing, and I'll coach you a bit on getting through this first essay. All right, see you in class tomorrow.